Which spreads should you bet week 10 of the 2024 NFL season? What's going on, football fans, gridiron gamblers, and BLV bettors? It's Mitch here with my favorite spread picks of week 10. My best bets versus the spread. This video I drop every single Thursday on the channel, so make sure you're subscribed. Gronk, spike the like button. And if you're wondering where you can get all of my bets every single NFL week, Patreon, link in the description and the pinned comment. Last week, we went 3-3. Easily could have went 4-2 if the New York Giants knew what an extra point was. But regardless, we're looking for a big week in week 10. And I think I like this card. So let's get started. Comment your favorite pick in the comment section below and let me know if you love my picks or you hate my picks this week. I always love the feedback. So let's get going. My first favorite pick of week number 10 is the San Francisco 49ers. They're back, and I'm back betting the 49ers. Now, preferably, I'd like a -5.5 here on the road at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But if 6 is the only number you can find, I would still lay the 6. Anything up to 7, I would bet the 49ers. This is a perfect spot for the Niners. This is a must-win for the Niners, and this is a great matchup for the Niners. So let's go through why I love the Niners. First, they're coming off a bye. Last year, when they came off the bye, they actually kind of limped into the bye week last year. They weren't playing great football. People had questions about their team. And typically early in the year, everyone has questions about the Niners. This is a team that's gone 3-4, that's gone 3-5, that's gone 3-4, 3 out of their past 4 seasons. And they've made the NFC Championship every single season dating back to 2020. So this is a team that typically gets better as they go into November, as they go into December. And it would make a lot of sense this year as they could be getting back arguably the best football player there is on earth, Christian McCaffrey, and definitely the best running back in the NFL. Dre Greenlaw is set to come back, although not playing in this game. But point being, the bye week is big for the Niners. They now can figure out what's working for them, what's not working for them, and implement McCaffrey into this offense, as well as potentially tweak some of the things that they've been beat on through the first course of the season. Last year, they entered the bye week. They were not playing well, and they hammered a team from Florida, the Jacksonville Jags. That Jacksonville team was starting off the season fantastic. They were actually on fire entering that Niners game, and the Niners just completely destroyed them and exposed them in that game. And the crazy thing about that game, the Jags were also coming off a bye in that game. Now, this is a much better spot for the Niners this season. They have a full bye week. They're getting McCaffrey back for this game, most likely. They're getting Jawan Jennings back for this game, most likely, and a couple other players healthy. On top of that, Tampa is coming off a short week, playing the Kansas City Chiefs into overtime in an emotional game that pretty much was for their season. They left everything out on the field in Kansas City. So now they have to travel back home and play on a short week against a physical and fast 49er team that is hungry for a win coming out of the bye. The 49ers are kind of a weird team this season. In every game that they've won, except for maybe the Dallas game, they have destroyed their opponent. They have pretty much dominated. They've won 4 games this year. They've dropped 4 games, right? And 3 out of their 4 wins were double-digit blowouts. The other game, they were up by double digits, and the Dallas Cowboys backdoored, but still only made it like a 6-point margin. And then in 2 of the games that they lost, they were actually up double digits. So this is just a team that can go up big in games. And now with McCaffrey, I feel like now they have a closer that they can rely on, and they can reliably win these games in the fourth quarter. So if that happens again against Tampa, a worn-down defense in Tampa, I could see the Niners coming out with a ton of energy here, gaining a lead, sustaining a lead, and confirming their lead in the end. So I view this also as a matchup spot. Not only is this a great spot in terms of schedule, Tampa, short week, Niners, bye week, but also this is Shanahan against Todd Bowles. We've seen this Todd Bowles defense consistently this year give up plays in the middle of the field, give up big passing plays, get gashed in the middle of the field. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL right now defending the run. That goes to contrast their reputation. Last week, we were actually on Tampa plus the 9 points. We liked specifically Kansas City's run game and how they like to run the ball up the middle against Tampa. And that actually made Tampa's run defense look a little bit better because Kansas City doesn't run outside the tackles. Who kind of invented the outside the tackles, outside zone, right? That's Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan. That's their staple of their offense, right? So this is, especially if McCaffrey is 100%, you're going to see a ton of just spamming the run outside the tackles and then hitting play action off of that and attacking the middle of the field and attacking those weaker coverage players in that middle of the field. On top of that, Jamel Dean has been out for a number of weeks. The cornerback 2 spot for Tampa has been catastrophically awful. They don't have Mike Evans. Chris Godwin's out for the year. They don't have the weapons to keep up with the Niners on the scoreboard, and they're probably going to wear out in the second half. On top of that, I do think Nick Bosa and company can get pressure on Baker Mayfield, especially considering Bosa typically plays on the left defensive end, not on the right defensive end, where Tristan Wirfs is lined up. The Niners do have a good secondary that I think can play pretty tight coverage in this game. And then also, they're typically better against pocket quarterbacks, and they're better at penetrating the pocket that way. Liam Cohen might be able to scheme some things out early in this game, but I think the Niners' talent on defense will eventually take over, including Fred Warner, who's a beast at shutting down tight ends. Cade Otton has been the primary option since Mike Evans and Chris Godwin have gone down. I don't expect him to thrive the way he did against Kansas City. So this is ultimately just a great matchup. Shanahan owns Bowles. Purdy actually got his first ever NFL start and NFL win against Todd Bowles and looked fantastic. Last year, the Niners basically blew out the Bucs in San Francisco. And this year, I think they'll do the same just in Tampa Bay, just like last year, going to Florida off the bye and winning in a blowout. So the 49ers minus 5.5, minus 6 is our first pick of week number 10. Our second best bet of week 10 is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles laying 7 or 7.5. Now, preferably you can still find a 7, which I don't think you really can find at this point. But if you can, sure. This is also a great teaser opportunity, and I'd even consider teasing the Niners and the Eagles together because I feel very confident they will at least win. Now, that being said, the Eagles are going on the road, another road favorite. Road favorites did very well last week, and they've actually been doing pretty well this entire season, oddly enough. That's not a typical trend, but for this year alone, it's been pretty fantastic for bettors. So trying to adjust to that, the Eagles are minus 7.5 here, and I just love the matchup. I love the spot for the Eagles because they're playing a Dallas team that they absolutely despise, but at the same time, they've got matchup advantages across the board. Like, the Cowboys are just awful right now. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL, and it's going to be hard for the books to really understand how much they may drop off without Dak Prescott because in recent seasons, Cooper Rush has had to play for Dak Prescott, but he's had much better support. He's had better offensive lines. He's had better receiving cores. He's had better run games. He's had better defenses. And I think it's kind of hard to tell going from Dak to Cooper Rush because in previous seasons, there was just a much better team with Dak, and they were just a much well-oiled machine that could win in different ways. This team is pretty much Dak and CeeDee Lamb, and that's about it. So when you take those two potentially out of the lineup, you've pretty much got nothing else for this Dallas Cowboys offense. Now, CeeDee was limited. It does appear that Dak's going to be out for a long time. He's on IR. It doesn't appear that Micah Parsons will be back. Trayvon Diggs is banged up. Zach Martin is banged up. The Cowboys are banged up across the board to some of their best players. Like if you counted their 5 best players on one hand, DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs, Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Zach Martin, like that's 6, their 6 best players are all banged up or injured, may or may not play. That's awful for the Dallas Cowboys. And then you look at an Eagles team that's kind of thriving right now. They're sort of peaking. I think a lot of people will look at the result and the box score last week of Jacksonville coming back and nearly winning and being, a little bit surprised by that and maybe fading the Eagles because of that result. But if you actually dove into that game, especially in the first half, they were utterly dominant. It was really just Nick Sirianni's boneheaded decisions that allowed the Jacksonville Jags to come back. On top of that, Jacksonville is a team that right now, honestly, is probably playing better offense than Dallas, especially considering the quarterback difference between Lawrence and now Cooper Rush. They actually probably have more weapons than Dallas. They've got a better running game than Dallas. They probably have a better offensive scheme than Dallas. They also had the Doug Peterson revenge factor going to Philadelphia, and they have a much better run defense than Dallas. This is where I think the Eagles will start the game, control the game, and finish the game through Saquon Barkley, regardless of if A.J. Brown is playing or not, which I would love to see him play. I probably wouldn't lay a 7.5 without him, but at 7, I'd still probably lay it just because of that backdoor potential spot with A.J. Brown being out. But I assume he'll play, at least him or Devontae Smith. I think either could thrive in this game, and I think they're primarily going to be focused on running the ball with Hurts and Saquon against a really decimated front seven for Dallas and a really poor run defense. I think you can overpower this team, you can run it down their throats, you can possess the ball, and you can put the ball on, Cooper Rush's right arm, force him to throw the ball more, which is going to lead to turnovers, lead to sacks, lead to more opportunities to score for Philadelphia. I could see the Eagles running up the score in this game because it is the Dallas Cowboys. It is in Dallas. It's a way to show Jerry Jones. That's just the type of guy that Nick Sirianni is. That's what the Eagles want to do to their rivals. So this is not a reason for the Eagles to really step off the gas either. They're looking good on defense. I love what Vic Fangio's doing with their defense. Their secondary is much faster. They're playing much tighter coverage, and their pass rush is really getting better and better and better, led by Jalen Carter, Sweat, and Nolan Smith. So I think the Eagles are just classes above Dallas right now. They're an elite NFC team. I could see them going as deep as the NFC Championship this year, and they're starting to really get their formula together, their identity down, and I think that they down Dallas in Dallas. So give me the Eagles -7.5, -7. I would be aware of the injury report for both teams. Make sure that we know who's playing, who's not before you bet this. I would say if A.J. Brown is playing, 100% lay the points. If A.J. Brown is not playing, see if the line moves, see if it dips to 7 or 6.5, and then play from there. We need at least Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown in this game, but I do think the Eagles should be able to run the ball all over Dallas and win this game through their defense that's really thriving right now. Our third pick of week number 10 is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers +3. You might only be able to get 2.5 depending on at what time and what day you're betting this. So just look around and shop for the best number. Obviously 3 is much more important than 2.5. But given the way that games are playing out now with 2-point conversions and things like that, 2.5 is still a pretty critical number. I wouldn't call it a key number, but it could be critical at times. The Steelers +2.5, 3, I'll be on Pittsburgh. And the reason is, there's a variety of reasons. First of all, they're coming off a bye week. The Steelers are very good coming off a bye week. Mike Tomlin is 13-4 in his NFL career coming off that bye week. They're actually getting much healthier now, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their offensive line, their defense, they're getting healthier. They added Mike Williams. They added Preston Smith to the fold on offense and defense. Russell Wilson can now get implemented fully into the offense, see what's clicking, see what's not really working, see what Russ is jiving with inside this Arthur Smith offense through 2 weeks, right? And then we have the critical factor of Mike Tomlin. He's an underdog in this spot on the road where he is just a absolute money-making machine, a covering machine. He's also fantastic against rookie quarterbacks. You combine a underdog Mike Tomlin Steelers spot with also a rookie quarterback spot, it doesn't get much better in terms of trends in the NFL. The Steelers are 25-6 against rookie quarterbacks. They're also 3-1 against Lamar Jackson. And the reason I bring that up is the guy that most closely resembles Jaden Daniels is the guy that they know best, Lamar Jackson. The Steelers are very good against rushing quarterbacks as well because they play Lamar all the time. They've allowed the second fewest rushing yards in the NFL so far this season. So they're familiar with Lamar. They know how to attack Lamar. And I think some of those things can come into play against Jaden Daniels in terms of containing him, the way that they like to blitz him, the way that they like to, confuse him in coverage. Also, Jaden Daniels, I do think he has played a pretty easy slate of defenses, and he's beat up on that slate of defenses. He has not faced a defense anywhere close to the Steelers. This is by far the best defense he has played. The Bears, I think, are probably the closest, and the Bears only allowed 12 points until a Hail Mary. Then, Washington won 18 to whatever, right? So basically, they didn't score any points until a Hail Mary, which is an absolute fluke, as we know. So that was the best defense he had played before that. A defense that I would say is kind of similar from a schematic perspective, except Pittsburgh's a better version with better personnel, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. And the Bucs did face the Commanders in week 1, and the Bucs did hammer the Commanders. And that was actually, looking back at it, one of Jaden Daniels' worst performances in the NFL so far. And that was in week 1, right? So there's a grain of salt there. But the zone blitzing schemes and the ability to contain mobile quarterbacks does stand within Todd Bowles' scheme and also within Mike Tomlin, because they have a lot of the same sort of principles. On top of that, you've got guys like TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, and Preston Smith containing the edge. You've got good interior push. You've got really fast athletic linebackers like Peyton Wilson, who's a dog as a rookie, and also Patrick Queen. Minkah Fitzpatrick might be able to pick a pass off over the middle of the field. And I just like the overall matchup. Joey Porter can match up with Terry McLaurin. He's the only real receiver I'm scared of on this offense. And that's kind of the weakness of the Steelers, is when you get more weapons, more depth of receivers, more depth of weaponry, that's where they're more concerning, because they're able to take away a number one because Porter can kind of withstand it. But it kind of gets worse when you go, okay, we got a great 2, we got a great 3. But a variety of the offense within Washington is run game, which Pittsburgh typically is pretty good at stopping the run. It's Jaden Daniels using his legs. The Steelers are good against running quarterbacks. And then it's the number one receiver, Terry McLaurin, and screen passes and yards after catch passes, which the Steelers are typically good at tackling. So there's a lot of things I like about their defense here, even playing what statistically has been the most efficient offense in the NFL. On top of that, Washington's defense, I still feel like, even if they're performing better, they are fairly average, right? And Russell Wilson and the Steelers have actually been cooking lately. Like, let Russ cook exactly. I mean, he's had 26 points and 37 points as the starter of the Steelers. And, even when you go back to before Russ, the Steelers put up 32 in the last week with Justin Fields. So that's 3 weeks of near 30 points for the Steelers, or more than 30 points, 2 above 30 and then a 26, which that's pretty good for the Steelers. Like, the Steelers don't usually score that many points, so you're getting them as an underdog. It feels like their offense is on the rise. They're coming off a bye. They're healthy. They're rested. Washington is kind of not playing amazing right now. They kind of just a little float by the Giants, and then they kind of barely got by the Bears. They probably should have lost. So I think the Steelers run the ball offensively against the 31st ranked Commanders run defense in yards per attempt. I think they control the ball. I think Russ makes a few sprinkled plays, big plays down the field. I think defensively they do a good enough job containing the young quarterback and maybe get a key interception or a key turnover, and that spirals into a Steeler upset. So give me the +2.5. Give me the +3 with Mike Tomlin coming off the bye against a rookie QB. Our fourth favorite pick of week number 10. I know, guys, you're like, stop betting on the Patriots. You're an idiot. Stop betting on the Patriots. You say it every week. And I get it. It's my favorite team. But if this is truly one of my 5 favorite picks, I just have to give it to you. I don't know what to say. Like, at this point, and this is the reason, guys, I'm going to be 100% honest. And I said it last week, and the Patriots covered last week. They covered 3.5. The reason I like the Patriots in bets right now is because I just think Drake May is way better than other people think. I just think Drake May is way better than the books think. And I just don't think they've adjusted to how good this kid is. I mean, you look at some of the stats he's put up. He's like the first quarterback in NFL history through 4 starts to put up a certain amount of touchdowns, a certain amount of passing yards, a certain amount of rushing yards. He's like one of the best rushing quarterbacks we've ever seen through 4 starts. He's actually second in yards, only 1 yard behind RG3 through a first 4-start stint, and he only played 1 quarter against the Jets. So he's dynamic with his legs. He's got a big arm. He's actually much smarter than given credit for. And he's capable of carrying a really bad offense 2 points. And really, when you look at it on the flip side, he kept them in the game. Against the Titans. They had no business being in that game considering how poorly their defense played, but Drake May made the plays possible for them to almost win. I mean, to be honest, they could have won that game if they went for 2 right after they scored the touchdown, so kind of on Gerard Mayo, which you're never backing Gerard Mayo because he's a terrible coach. But on the flip side, Matt Eberflus has kind of lost his locker room. And the Bears had their worst performance of the season against the Cardinals. They looked awful. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't block. I mean, the Cardinals defense had like 6 sacks against the Bears. Caleb is playing atrocious football. And when you compare these two quarterbacks as rookies, Drake is so much better. It's like not even a conversation. The offensive line of the Bears right now might be one of the like weaker units than the Patriots offensive line. The Patriots offensive line's actually been playing a little bit better as of late. Demario Douglas and Hunter Henry seem to have a good rapport with Drake May, and I could actually see the Patriots running the ball much better in this game against a Bears defense that's actually bottom 5 in yards per attempt allowed in their run defense. They're also not good at running the ball, which has been the Patriots' weakness, right? You look at they're 29th on defense and yards per attempt allowed. So Stevenson and the run game should get going a little bit better than it has against Tennessee and the Jets and some good run defenses. Both of those teams rank in the top 10 in yards per attempt on defense. But the Bears are bottom 5, so that should give some balance for the Patriots. On top of that, on the other side, they're actually 26th on offense with DeAndre Swift and company. So that being the weakness of New England, the run defense of the Patriots and just their inability to get penetration, their inability to slow down teams, which really eats time of possession, I feel like that's really going to help the Patriots just get better third down situations for their defense, better third down situations for their offense and Drake, and not constantly being in 3rd and 10 where he was constantly having to convert in outrageous situations and he was actually able to. So yeah, and then you combine all that stuff, you know, the difference between Drake and Caleb. And by the way, the better quarterback is getting 6.5 points here. And I understand they're on the road, but he's getting 6.5 points. On top of that, the Bears are extremely beat up. I mean, the left tackle is out in Braxton Jones. Their top 3 tackles, their left, their right, Darnell Wright, their starting right tackle, second year, first round pick from a year ago. He's also did not practice. Their third tackle did not practice. So they could be without their top 3 tackles on their offense. They very much struggled to block the Cardinals last week. Keep that in mind, right? They've got guys that are banged up in the interior O-line. They lost their best run-defending defensive tackle for the season, Andrew Billings. Montez Sweat didn't play against the Cardinals. He's limited this week. Jaquan Brisker, one of their better secondary players, is out for this game. So they have a plethora of injuries. They might be getting a couple guys back like Sweat and Gordon for the secondary and the front 7, which would help them, but losing Billings could make their run defense even worse. And their offensive line is missing possibly both starting tackles. And I know the Patriots don't have a great run offense, and I know they don't have a great pass rush, but that should at least aid them in those areas, right? And you look at the Bears offensively, they're so poorly coached, poorly schemed. Caleb is under duress constantly, and he's super inaccurate at all levels of the field when he's under duress or pressure. He's constantly making bad throws. He's constantly inaccurate. He can't get the ball down the field. So I'm taking the better quarterback with 6.5 points in what likely could be a defensive game because, I mean, the Bears can't really move the ball and score even against a bad Patriots defense. And on the flip side, like, the Bears defense is pretty good. I think this is too many points for the Bears right now. Plus, they don't even really like their coach. Like, there's so many reasons why I would take the Patriots. I think the Patriots can win this game if things go right and Drake plays the way he's been playing. If he just cuts down a turnover or two, they definitely could win this game. So, yeah. I don't think the Bears are as good as people think, maybe. Maybe that's part of what it is as well. But, yeah, give me the 6.5 with the Patriots. I think that's too many points for the way Caleb's playing and the amount of injuries they have on offense and defense. Our 5th and final selection as a best bet versus the spread for week number 10 is the Minnesota Vikings -4 preferably, but also at 4.5 at Jacksonville. This is another road favorite, and we have 2 underdogs with the Patriots and the Steelers. I like the Vikings mostly because I think this number should be I just feel like all Jacksonville spreads are like not right the entire year. I just feel like Jacksonville has been kind of overrated the entire season. Like last week, sure, they covered the spread, but I mean, they were getting absolutely annihilated for like most of the game. And they have been playing a bit better, Jacksonville, but there's a couple weaknesses I see in this game that Minnesota can take advantage of. First of all, Jacksonville plays a ton of man coverage on defense. They're going to have to face Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, and this man-beating, route-running core of the Vikings. Plus, I feel like Kevin O'Connell has always been good at scheming up man-beaters in his offense. And if Darnold has guys running open, he's going to hit them in stride for big plays. And we've seen him actually hit some deep balls for big gains this year. I think Jefferson could have a huge game. And Addison is deceptively a really good route runner and separator as well. So I love that matchup for them. Plus, we saw the Eagles run the ball on Jacksonville. Maybe Aaron Jones can hit a couple big runs as well. So I like that offensive matchup. Jefferson, Addison against man coverage. On the other side, I think Flores is going to absolutely give Trevor Lawrence such a tough time. Now, Jacksonville's been running the ball not bad, but the Vikings are a really good run defense. I mean, they are ranked in the top 10. They've got I think, underrated front seven, underrated pass rush, underrated run defense. They've got big people in the inside to be able to plug the holes on first and second down. And if the Jags decide to go to a pass-heavy script, just like Indianapolis tried to do on Sunday night, that's a bad recipe against the Vikings. The Vikings are very good against the pass, specifically when it comes to disrupting and causing negative plays and turnovers. They can get after your quarterback. They can sack your quarterback. They can also, create pressure from a variety of different ways. And the matchup that I specifically like is Flores finding the deficiencies in the protections of the Jags. I think we've seen Jacksonville kind of improve in terms of their overall pass protection and pass game. But I think if there's anybody that could really pick apart an offensive line that could be missing Ezra Cleveland at guard, that just got rid of Cam Robinson at left tackle, that is not the best offensive line overall. We've seen them struggle throughout the season. I think it's Flores. I could see a lot of different blitzes getting after Lawrence. Lawrence isn't the best at escaping pressure. He's not the best under pressure. It causes him to be inaccurate. He's very long and deliberate with his mechanics. Takes him a long time to kind of get the ball out. So I could see the Vikings sending a lot of heat, rallying and tackling when Lawrence gets the ball out. I also think Gilmore can do a decent job on Brian Thomas. They're going to provide a lot of different creative zone blitz looks to confuse Trevor Lawrence. Lawrence no longer has his safety blanket, Christian Kirk, in the offense. He's relying a lot on Evan Ingram, which I don't really love, honestly, not as efficient as Christian Kirk. And I just think Flores, if they're stopping the run and it's like 2nd and 9 and 3rd and 7, the Vikings are just very good defensively in those scenarios. I don't think Jacksonville's offense is quite at the level where they're going to be able to just pick apart the Vikings, kind of like the Rams did. So, and I don't think their offensive line's good enough either to hold up the way the Rams did. So, I like the Vikings. I think they've got advantages in the pass game on both sides of the football, and I think they've got the much better coaching staff on both sides of the football. So, yeah. Give me the Vikes, -4, -4.5. The way Jacksonville has been kind of fluky covering some of these games does concern me just a little, which is why they're my 5th pick. But I do think this is the better team, and I do think they should win by 6 or 7 points. So give me Minnesota, -4, -4.5. Those are my best bets for week number 10. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, Gronk spike the like button. Check out Patreon for all of my bets each and every week. It's $10 to sign up. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Deuces.